So what I did is I've got highlighted here a business that's targeting 20 to 25% net profit margin. So that's the bottom of that P&L. That's after we paid for everything. If we're looking for 20, 25% left over, what does that break down to? How do I get there? How do I get to the end of my month and know that I'm going to have that number? And so what I've done is I've broken out, and this is kind of the easiest way to understand your profit and loss statement when you're looking at it is what are the major levers or your primary expense categories that are really going to affect your business? Okay, so we already spoke about the first one, which was this cost of goods, your COGS or your cost of goods sold. That really helps to define what your gross margin is. And I know we were speaking earlier about roughly you want to see that between 45 and 55. And I think this little chart down here gives you a little bit of help on that. Your margin is going to be different depending on what you offer. Okay, so if you look at this bottom chart, it says at least a 50% margin on equipment and materials to cover labor, overhead, and profits, right? So that's on your equipment. And then you've got a whole nother line that you offer, which is a lot of your service calls. Your service calls you want a higher margin on. Okay, that helps to get you in that kind of 55 mark. So if you're looking at least 55 or 50% on equipment, you're running on service calls and you're targeting closer to 60 there, you're going to get that blended average teetering closer to that 50 to 55 mark. It's going to bring up your overall margin. So that's kind of a sweet spot. And again, this is different depending on your location. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, it's going to look different than if you're in the Central South or if you're in the Southeast. Okay, those are all things to take into consideration depending on the equipment cost in your area, but those are generally where you want to be at. So if we go down these lists and you really start to understand this from a P&L perspective, think about this list as a condensed profit and loss statement. You've got your revenue, which is 100%. That's all of your sales coming in. You want basically, let's call it 50%. That's a nice, easy number going towards your equipment, material, and labor to go ahead and drive and to deliver that sale. You then want your additional labor cost. Let's call that 20 to 30%. That's going to be everything else that doesn't typically fall into fulfilling a job. This could be administrative costs. This could be officer salaries. This could be manager salaries, anything like that, 20 to 30. Your general overhead, this is rent, utilities, things of that nature. You've got vehicle and transportation, 5 to 10%. And that could be financing a vehicle if you've got a lease on it, gas, insurance, things like that. And then sales and administrative, this is office supplies, and sales picks up a little bit of the sales commission as well. If you guys charge a commission for if you've got any techs that work for you, they get paid out a commission, it's going to fall into that sales and admin as well. Using that, you guys should be around 20 to 25%. As long as you're sticking pretty close to these ranges, this is what you should see at the end of the month. Okay, so this is a good benchmark guideline. If you're reviewing your P&L and you're trying to bucket items, this is kind of where you want to be at. And there's some details over here on the side as well about what would fall into these categories.